What's up? I'm back. So, like my first video, I'll give y'all an opportunity to hop on about 40 seconds before I begin. I'm on my lunch break now, and I'm out in my car, so I can be as loud as I want and exuberant as I want. So that's why I said the name of the title, Untamed, because I don't have to be tamed. I can actually get in my bag, as the young people would say. I hope y'all are having a good Thursday. Those of y'all who got y'all taxes, pay y'all bills. 6 seconds. Trying to put the seat back. There we go. All right, I think it's time for me to start. It is. What's up, Mary? So I titled this once again, More Preaching and Teaching, Please, More Gospel Focus. I did a first video. You can go back and look at it. I decided to come back on here and do another live because I think that some of my live caught off with what I was saying just a little bit on my last video. But anyways, this is, I guess, deeper than what inspired it. Because what inspired it was I always keep tabs on Kanye's Sunday service. I think it's great. I think it's awesome. I think it's super awesome that he invites actual pastors like Mike Todd and Kerwin Lee, which is somebody I had never heard of before he stepped on the scene, and Adam Tyson, which is somebody I'd never heard of. He's inviting pastors what's the dude, Rich Wilkerson from Miami, who is a good friend of his, who married him and Kim, to come and actually preach the gospel. I mean, of course, he was at Joel Osteen, and that was wonderful as well. People can say what they want about Joel. He's unversed. He's this, he's that. But at the end of the day, the gospel is being preached, and it's unhindered by what your perception about a preacher is. I got my own feelings about Joel that aren't bad. I just think that he took on his dad's empire, and he's doing it the best way he knows. And to be honest, it's very American pie-ish. It's very, it's just very American pie, which means that we are used to things in our liking. We are used to going to service and getting out at a certain time so that we can catch the football game. We are used to things being in a certain schedule. We're not used to our schedule really being messed up. Joel runs 3 services on Sunday, and I think at least 1 service on Saturday night. And it's like clockwork. But I didn't come on here to talk about Joel. I came on here to reiterate what I was talking about before, about give us more gospel, give us more preaching, give us more teaching in churches. I got off on the trail because I was talking about the preachers that Kanye brings up on his Sunday services, which I think is awesome that he incorporates the word in his Sunday services. And we have Adam Tyson to thank for that. If you all have ever watched a Sunday service and saw a white man preaching the gospel, his name is Adam Tyson, and he lives in California, in Calabasas, with Kanye. Well, Kanye is in Wyoming now, but you get it. So we have him to thank for that, because before it was just a bunch of singing, a bunch of music. There wasn't no testimony or anything. It was just feel good vibes. But now it's come to where, the preaching is actually giving us an insight into what Kanye is under. Yeah, so I'll say that much. What I wanted to come on here and talk about is, for the most part, most black preachers are very surfacey. And that's what I observed with this last Sunday service that Kanye hosted. A pastor by the name of Kerwin Lee, he taught from John chapter 5, verse 1 through 15. He focused on verse 6 and 8, which I'll go into and go over an overview of quickly. But it was very surfacey, and it was very motivational. It didn't really dig at all. It was a safe message that could be forgotten in 2 minutes. I don't say that to be disrespectful. I'm just saying, ain't nobody there had notepads. Nobody on the video had their phones out to do anything but record, which, I mean, if they go back and listen to it, that's great. But aside from recording and even having a notepad out to write down notes from the message, there was nothing that could stick on your bones. That message was very surfacey. And my observation is that you can get very surfacey messages from black pastors primarily, and then you get these deep theological messages from white pastors, and it's not pitting one against the other. I think that we should really work together, because some white churches, some white pastors need a little bit more seasoning. And then some black people, we need more substance. We don't need to be all up in the clouds all day. We don't need to be shouting all day. We need substance. We need to know that theology matters. We need to know that doctrine matters. We need to know that we don't have to abide by every single word that comes out of the man of God's mouth that's on that pulpit. Like, we need to know where to draw the line. We need to know that we can hold leaders accountable. We need to know that honor has to be tested, and that just because somebody talks about honor doesn't mean that you just honor blindly. Because I see a lot of people that just honor blindly, and, you know, we find out that honor is not honor when honor is tested, and then you up and leave the church and everybody finds out months later. Or you don't up and leave the church, but you harbor a sentiment in your heart towards this person. So yeah, honor's not honor until it's truly tested. And a lot of people's honor is fake and it's phony. And your money will be wasted, and your purchases will be wasted, and all this other stuff will be wasted, because when he piss you off one good time, then what you going to have to say about honor? Are you still going to remain in a place to where you're going to honor this person even though you don't like what they necessarily do? I'll leave that question at that. Before I go into what he said, and I might not even go into what he said because I'm kind of on the road with what I'm saying now. Basically, surface level black preachers, for the most part, more theologically soundness in white churches, but no spirit. It's dry like toast. It's unseasoned chicken. It's nasty. You know, why can't we have the best of both worlds? Why can't we have a service where it's just as theologically sound and it's just as musically excellent, and the people actually look like they're alive in the pews and like they're happy to be there? Why can't we have excellence to concert level, Kanye level, and still have the word? You know, why do we have churches that are half dead but claim to have the words of life? And then how come we have churches that claim to have the words of life and act alive, but then all throughout the week, Monday through Saturday, they're acting like hell. They're going to clubs, they're going to strip clubs. You know, they having these alternative lifestyles, and they're having conversations that they would never have in the face of people that they quote unquote honor. You see how hypocritical and backwards that is? You honor somebody, but yet you can't live life Monday through Sunday or Monday through Saturday honoring God. See, the problem that I have with honor in the church, and this goes for my local church, this goes for your church, like I said in my other video, if the shoe fits, then you can wear it. I made it just for you. The problem that I have with honor in these churches is that, like I told my wife last night, we have conversations often just about faith and a whole lot of things. But what I don't like is this team mindset when it comes to, oh, my church. You know, I go to the Center for Manifestation, and our acronyms are CFM. And it, you know, and the thing about it is, it could be said from the pulpit that's not what it is. But everybody knows, and it's just apparent that it is that way. We're rah, 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 you know, my church, my team, this. But then what about your life? Can you go out in life and just live life and honor God above your church? Church is not your life. I mean, if you want to be honest, you are the church, and wherever you congregate is where the church is. But You need to be used to congregating with people of maybe other races, Chinese people, Indian people, white people. Like, you don't have to hang around your church all week. You don't have to talk about church all week. You know, there's a lot of conversation that happens around church, but yet coincidentally, all the talk about church, nobody wants to talk about the word. Nobody wants to talk about the gospel. Nobody wants to teach or preach and stay focused on subject. Which brings me just all the way full circle back around to the whole reason I came on here with this video. Pastors. First of all, pastors, leadership, everything. I want to say that nobody is taken away, and this video does not negate everything that you already do for community and all your great works. This video is not a critique of anything good that you do. This video is a plea for more. This video is a plea for more focus on gospel, for more focus on opening up the scriptures and teaching us past just one level of scripture or one-liners. This is a plea for more than just hopping around to different scriptures that agree with one other scripture, all to tie a knot to say what you ultimately want to say. This is a plea for pastors and leaders of any sort in the church to actually show us what the word says. This is a plea for you to actually be in context and to do more than just push, what appears to just be an agenda. And like I said, this is for anybody or any pastor that I will ever speak to. So for y'all who want to make it messy, be my guest. But I'm going to say what I got to say. We're just asking for more. Don't demonize somebody that point out more. Don't point out the fact of what they're not doing or all of that, because that's just messy. And maybe you think people don't see it, and maybe you do, but you're seen. And we have to learn how to judge our own hearts as far as where we're at when it comes to that matter. But for me personally, this is a plea for more. We need more. There's tons of people who I know personally that enjoy watching other pastors, Matthew Stevenson, Mike Todd, all these other things. I just remembered what I was going to say, which I'm going to answer right now. People will say to me, and people have said to me, oh, well, if you know so much, why don't you start your own church? Oh, if you know so much and if you don't like it here, why don't you leave? How wrong of you to say that? If I'm raising a concern, and if I'm being bold enough to raise it in any kind of way, then why would you want to run me off because I'm pointing out where you suck? Who does that? Who sits somebody down because they point out where they suck? Let me go there. Who sits somebody down because they point out a need? Who ostracizes somebody and talks out the side of their neck because of the way that they bring up an issue? Why would you want me, personally, because this has been said to me, think about this. Let me try to open up your eyes. Why would somebody want me to leave a fellowship that I claim to love the people and respect when I bring up an area of concern to where there needs to be more? I don't want to go anywhere else. I'm not home anywhere else. Anywhere else just doesn't fit. It should be that I'm appreciated. Yeah, it is people who hate correction. And you know who hates correction the most? Let me get into this, Marcus. The people who hate correction the most is the people that think they should be correcting everybody else. And guess who that is? Leadership. Leadership hates correction. And I'm not deleting this. And if you want to make it what it make it, then make it what it is. Make it exactly what I'm saying. Leadership in the church is the main group that hates correction. They hated correction when Jesus was back in his time in the first century in them temples. Most of his woe to you Pharisees and hypocrites and your Sadducees, guess what? It was to the religious people, because they were the people that were leading people wrong. So you know who hates correction the most? It's not the people that don't want to come to church and have all these objections from coming to church. The problem with the church is the church's leadership. And I will say that again. The problem with the church is the church's leadership. They do not like correction. They do not answering to people that are under them because they think they know it all. They got a bunch of yes men around them that tell them what they want to hear, and they don't have the balls to say something. And so the people that do have the balls to say something, guess what happens to them? Those people are made examples of. Those people are sat down. Those people are left out in the cold, and nobody has their back, but everybody is talking about what's going on. But nobody will say anything. And why is that? It's because, like I said, there's a spirit of Jezebel that's over the church. There's a spirit of control that's over the church. There's a spirit of bondage that's over the church. And like I said, this goes for anywhere that it exists. So let's get that out of the way. And if you want to make a mess out of my words, then you can take my words and make a mess out of them, but I ain't going to stop them from coming out of my mouth. We got to clean up. We got to clean up, and we got to open our eyes. We have to open our eyes, because there are people that are trying to stop you from opening your eyes to truth that's right in your face. That's right in your face. Right in your face. I'm a walking, living, open book. Anything about my life, anything that you care to realize, if you really look, you'll find out some things. And people will try to spin it the way they want to spin it. People will try to paint the narrative the way they want to paint it. And it's funny that the people that say that you shouldn't care about people making certain comments and you shouldn't care about focusing on, those are the main people that are talked against. If it's not important, if it doesn't matter, then why is it being brought up in any kind of context? Because what I say has value and what I say has some validity. But we want to say things to distract from what needs to be focused on, and we want to focus on quote unquote points of excellence. We need to learn to value the people that put the sacrifice down to deal with the pains of staying somewhere that doesn't want to change. How can we collectively do something to help? Be a voice. That's what I would say. Be a voice. Speak up. Of course, the given is pray about it. But a lot of times, a leader will tell you to pray about something that you don't need to pray about. There needs to be action. There needs to be meetings. There needs to be conversations had so that things can be implemented to change things. But oftentimes what you see shots over pulpits, shots over Facebook, sideways conversations. You're smiling in people's face, but then things are going on in the background. But yet we want to come and worship a God that we say we're all connected to. And I don't care how good the worship is. I don't care how good it seems. I don't care how good you feel about the worship. Worship is not a feeling. Worship is a lifestyle. And you could be doing all that dancing and all that singing and all that stuff in the context of church. And at the end of the day, God said it's a bunch of BS. A bunch of BS that stinks before my nostrils because you don't have the relationships right that you need to have. And you're treating people wrong. But most people will say that, it's going too good. I hear God too much. I'm this, I'm that. Nobody can talk to me. And it doesn't change anything. And it may not change anything, Marcus. But what I can do and what I can say in answer to your question is of how we can collectively do something to help is be a voice. Do what you can. Have conversations that you can have. Raise topics that you can talk about, that you feel passionate about. And yeah, be a voice. Do the thing that they ask you to do, which is pray. But you need to put some action and some feet behind your prayer as well. And don't settle for less. Don't join or be connected to something to where your voice is not going to be heard, but at the same time, love unconditionally. But do not settle for not being true. You have to be true in whatever context you're in. Don't be unresolved inside. Love, tell the truth, and encourage people through the gospel. And so that brings me back to the last point I'll probably make before I end this, so that it won't be too long and y'all can actually look at this later. Basically, don't be muted and speak truth out of love. Yes. Don't be muted. Speak the truth out of love. If somebody wrong, tell them, bang, you wrong. If somebody, speak the truth in love. Speak the truth in love, no matter how you got to do it. I don't care how much people talk about Facebook bullies and all this other stuff and it being dishonorable and it being subversive and subversive. If that's the way that you got to come, then come that way. If that's the way that you got to get it out, to feel like you aren't going to be interrupted or whatever, come that way. If that's how you need to get your feelings out, then get them out. And guess what? Then it puts the ball in the court of the people that hear your sentiments, that they can choose to talk about you, make subliminal stuff, talk subliminally across the pulpit, or they can actually choose to value your input in whatever way it comes and have a conversation. But if they don't choose to do that, you got to keep on doing what you got to do. I mean, I've been on my grind for I don't even know how long. Stating truth, being true, making mistakes along the way and addressing things directly. And I'm probably sure I probably will try to get inboxes and hear about this, but I don't care. Things need to be talked about. There's wrongs that are done that need to be corrected. And the people that need to talk about these things aren't talking about it. They're talking about everything else. They're talking about how great their church is, all these programs that they have, which is not helping nobody to be smarter as far as it's called to sanctification and gospel. And their passion centers are wrong. Your passion center shouldn't be centered around your church and around your community of people. If anything, God should be the one that's keeping y'all together. And you should be able to encourage your community to go along and to go after God. And to love because of that being the foundation and not anything else. And to be honest, I just don't see it. In most contexts, I just don't see it. I don't see that being done. It's a lot of yes men in the church. It's a lot of the peanut gallery. It's a lot of people agreeing to stuff they don't even know what the heck it even means. There's a lot of churchianity. There's a lot of activity that goes on in the church that just goes on just because it's been going on for so long. There needs to be more truth injected. There needs to be more statements injected that are true. There needs to be more focus on the word. There needs to be more focused on doing what Paul did. How can you admire somebody like Paul when all in the New Testament, he's always bringing things back to the gospel? There is nothing greater to go to. There is no higher ascent. There's a deeper descent into the gospel. The gospel is not elementary. The gospel is the meat. The elementary elements were the law. They were our schoolmaster to bring us to Christ. There's nothing else after Christ that we need to get to. Nothing about finance, nothing about lifestyle, none of that. The way that we're going to have success in life is to focus more on the one who is inexhaustible. So to say that, I can move past the ABCs of the gospel and I can move past Christ and what he did for me by dying, to say that is almost blasphemous. Christ is inexhaustible. Everything that we need to know about Christ, every application can be found in his gospel. And I know this. I've read books on this. I've listened to messages and listened to messages each and every day where they bring it back to the gospel. And it's not in the way of the Baptist. He died. That's an issue too. People got this critique. Oh, you're going to lead them to the cross every week. You're going to lead them to the cross every Sunday. Not in the way that you used to hearing. Not in the way that Baptist preachers are used to, they could preach about everything else, but at the end of the day, they got to run and somebody got to get on the organ and he got to say he died and have his hand on his head and all that other stuff. I'm not talking about that crap. I'm talking about people who intelligently dig in the gospel and show you the application of the gospel to your life like you ain't never heard. I'm talking about the Timothy Kellers. I'm talking about the Francis Chans. I'm talking about J.D. Greers. I'm talking about people that's in it. Tony Evans, which I think he more along, he's not the typical black preacher, but I think that he has like a mixture of them. But I'm talking about people that do this. What's one of my favorite ones? I can't think of his name. And I can't think of his name. But yeah, it's another dude. It's a white dude. And there are more African Americans that teach in a way that is going to encourage you to dig deeper into the gospel and have gospel application. But my encouragement is to say that it can be done. It is done on a daily basis, not just on Sundays either. Don't you want your congregations to be able to rightly divide the word of truth? Don't you want your congregation to actually value the gospel to where they'll see the beauty of God more than the lesser beauty of sin, and actually stop being dramatic and start telling the truth about themselves and stop holding secrets and start to have glory in the gospel of God which saved them while they were yet sinners? Don't you want people to have confidence that they can come to God and that they don't have to hide their sin from you because they know that you got just as much dirt as them, no matter what level of sin it is. At some level, everybody's working on something. The gospel is the line that levels us all. Don't you want people to trust in the gospel and not the fact that they're following everything that you say? Don't you want people to follow what God has to say? Don't you want people to honor God more than you? Or are we too busy building our building funds and purchasing land and having churches in our names in other places and things? What about the kingdom of God? What about his gospel? What about encouraging people to go there? It's not just about teachers. It's not just on teachers to encourage people to dig in the gospel. It's on every single one of those fivefold gifts. It's on every one of us. It's on the prophet to encourage people to stay near to the heart of God. And prophets, all they did was encourage people to come back to God. So what does a prophet look like in the context of the New Testament? The same thing. The prophets are supposed to encourage you to stay close to Christ and to judge your heart, along with everything else they do. Teachers, they're going to be more teacher intensive, but at the base level, everybody should honor and value the gospel at a certain level. And then there are certain gifts and certain graces to where they honor it at a different level, and there's a different side that somebody can see. But all I'm doing is coming on here and to do my, I guess, whatever number closing this is. I'll end this at 30 minutes. But man, we gotta get serious. We really got to get more serious about what we do in the church. It's more than just community exploits. It's more than just kingdom keys. Like, what about the gospel, man? That's my gripe. What about the gospel? Don't just give me a verse or give me a handful of verses from different places, all to back up what you want to ultimately say anyways. Encourage me in worship too. God dog. Worship should not just be about somebody's favorite song. None of our favorite songs. This is about to go over a little bit on 30 minutes. Worship should not be about nobody's favorite song. Not my favorite song, not the pastor's favorite song, not the worship leader's favorite song, not nobody's favorite song. You know what our favorite song should be? Jesus Christ. That's what our favorite song should be. Forget your message. Forget what you want to talk about. We should worship God. Once again, it goes back to the gospel. We should worship God unadulterated and let whatever come out of that, come out of that. If he wants us to stay on our message, then that's cool. But for the time being, in that worship setting, it's about God. And it's about the flow that already exists. It's not about what we want. How reckless would it be for me to join some dinner party that's going on, and instead of eating what they have, and you know, this is not a situation where it's a vegan coming and they have dietary restrictions. This is, how disrespectful is it for me to come over to somebody else's house and instead of eating, how disrespectful is it for me to come to somebody's dinner and instead of eating what's provided, I bring my own McDonald's or I bring my own Burger King or what I want to eat, and I sit at the table amongst everybody else's eating and I eat something that I purchased. That's out of order. Worship is not about anybody's favorite song. Worship is about the one song that everybody should care about, and that's Heaven's song. And what is Heaven's song? Sinatra? Heaven's song is Jesus Christ. Period. It's not about how we feel. It's not about what tailors into our message that we want to speak. It's not about any of that. It's about God. Period. So that's about worship. That's why people should be versed in the word too. Not just about atmospheres and everything like that. That's all well and great. But worship should be birthed out of a knowledge and out of a respect and out of a love of the word. Why? Because we love God because he first loved us. It's not the other way around. We don't have the heart, we don't have the knowledge, we don't have the wherewithal or the will to worship God. But you know what? I know for a fact that if we dig in that word and if we see him the way that we need to, the heart is going to well up with worship. It's going to well up with worship. Period. Game over. If you teach people how to respect the word, you won't have to tell them how to stand up. You won't have to tell them to raise their hands or lift their hands or speak in tongues to encourage themselves in the Lord. Because that's another thing. And I guess I'm just going to start on that too. I get it. We all speak in tongues in a congregational setting so that we can stir something up. The Bible says in 1 Corinthians chapter 14 that if we speak in tongues and somebody come in, they're going to think we crazy. And it's true. Speaking in tongues is for building yourself up in your most holy faith. And yes, we can do that together. And I guess it has some redeemable value. But we have to be careful what we teaching people. We just don't speak in tongues just to heighten the atmosphere. We don't speak in tongues just to do some mental ascent exercise. We speak in tongues to build ourselves up in our most holy faith. It goes past thinking and it goes straight to the throne room of God. And sometimes there are interpretations. And then sometimes there may not be a gift of interpretations. But I want to know why in the world that in most cases where it says that if there ain't no interpreter, don't speak in tongues, why are we doing it? Can you honestly tell me why we are speaking in tongues in a public setting when in the Bible in 1 Corinthians chapter 14, it says, do not speak in tongues in a public setting unless there is an interpreter? It does not make sense. And to this day, I've posed the question many a times and nobody's giving me an answer. It's just like we just going to do whatever the heck we want to do because it makes us feel good. It doesn't make sense, man. It does not make sense. Why are we all speaking in tongues at the same moment? And then what's inferred, because it happens all the time in worship, oh, everybody lift up your heavenly language. What are we doing right now? If we're fighting against something, say that. But like, what are we doing? Like, has there been no education? No, there's not a lot of churches that have probably even opened up 1 Corinthians chapter 14 to even look at what he's actually saying, and will probably excuse it away as, oh, that's for that culture in that time. No, it's not. It expressly says what you're supposed to do. And it's not about legalism or none of that. But I mean, come on. If speaking in tongues is to build yourself up, yes, you can do it all together. But why would you want to? Now, I need you to talk in English to me. Talk in English. Let me be edified, because I cannot be edified by you if you're speaking in tongues. Yes, I can edify myself in worship, and that's all well and great. But we really have to examine ourselves with these practices that we be doing in church. Because honestly and truly, y'all just be bucking the system, man. Y'all really just be bucking the system. Y'all be doing stuff expecting people to follow y'all, and y'all don't have no explanation, no biblical explanation for why y'all doing stuff. Like, why are y'all playing with church? Why are y'all doing the stuff that y'all doing? I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Like I said, this is not a whole rant. I actually say some good stuff, and like I said, I'm gonna end it because I probably got to go back into work to get on these phones. So I want y'all to listen to this when I end it, because I raised a lot of concerns that need to be heard, concerns that need to be discussed and raised by other people other than me. Because let me tell you something, and I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna be out. Myself, along with my wife, and probably countless other people that we have not even heard, we have the balls and the boldness to say things that people express or that we see, and y'all just let us go out there on a limb and say stuff, and then y'all don't do crap about it. And the thing is, y'all actually agree with what we say. But then when you see somebody get crucified for it, then you just go back into your shell and you put your head in the dirt. You got the meats. Good. Well then, welcome. But for the rest of y'all just some scary Negroes. Because most of y'all are Negroes. Y'all don't say crap. Y'all just so far up people behinds because you ain't looking at Jesus. I don't know what other way to say it. You don't value Jesus. You don't value him to where you're going to come against what somebody says, no matter who they are. You stuck up somebody else's behind. That's idolatry is what it is. I value the gospel of Jesus Christ. I value myself. And most importantly, I value God to not be a butt sucker. I'm not kissing butt. I'm not saying yes when I don't agree. And guess what? I'm still a Christian. I'm still honorable, probably more honorable than the people saying that they're honorable and wasting their time and money on stuff because it hasn't even been tested. I refuse to be put in a box to where it's even said in any remote way that I'm dishonorable or that I'm divisive or whatever else generalization and words want to be thrown at me, because I hear them all. Make it plain. Make it plain. Make it plain. If you got something to say, say it. Because there's too many people that's just out here in limbo thinking, well, maybe this was meant about me. People talking all this veiled speech. Why do we do this in church? Why do we do this in church? Why do we talk in a bunch of veiled speech? It's crazy. We should be able to look each other in the eye and tell the truth. There's just too much shadiness going on in church these days. And it's not only my church. And yes, I did say that. It's not only in my church, but it is in my church. And it is in your church. It is. And nobody wants to say it. But you want to talk in all these private circles. You want to have all these private chats. You want to talk in your homes. You want to talk over the pulpit. You want to make statuses and all this other stuff. Cut that mess out. Because God ain't pleased with it. It's not. He's not. And on that note, I got to get back in. I'm probably late from break, but it's okay. This needed to be said. And you know what? It needs to be shared. It needs to be reposted. People need to comment. People need to talk. Don't inbox me because I ain't answering. Then don't call me. Let's talk about this in public. If you dare. I'm out.